Baby, come on. I thought you were out of the shower already. Well, how long is that gonna take? You. Fine, fine. I will patiently wait for my sore loser of a partner to grace me with their presence. Are you finally done pouting? Yeah, sure. You know, this wouldn't be happening if you hadn't, oh so rudely, bet against me at the party last week. Okay, baby, first off, it was not 50 digits of pi. Okay, I recited 72. And I've told you stories about when I was in high school and college. In what alternate universe am I not a nerd with a niche, hyper specific memory? Also, you bet I couldn't even recite 10 digits. Maybe no one you knew remembered digits of pi, but you're looking at the 3-time runner up pi recital competition winner. Don't dangle my accomplishments over me, okay? I worked very hard to secure runner up year after year. I mean, I could show you a thing or two about sloppy. You don't have to pinch me. Can I at least get a kiss for being runner up? You know, I find you very sweet. I'm very glad that you're my partner. Do you know what I love most about you being my partner? Forcing you to listen to something I like. Oh, I love being sweet, baby, but it's not gonna get you out of this morning, even if it's early. Your phone isn't even near you. Come here. Come here. Pretty please? I'm very excited to share this with you. I know you don't always enjoy getting into new media, but trust me, Hadestown is amazing. Even if you don't like musicals, I will give you at least one reason to appreciate this as a masterpiece. What is Hadestown even? Oh, whoa, whoa, okay, time out. Stay right here. Shh, just wait right here, okay? I'm grabbing a notebook so I can draw a diagram. Okay, so I'm assuming you read Percy Jackson as a kid? I mean, yeah, everyone basically did. Listen, I'm just trying to gauge your knowledge of mythology. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form an expert on mythology, but Hadestown is like. Okay, so the primary story is a retelling of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. Have you heard of that one? Oh, baby, you're killing me. Okay, so we'll get more into that later. So the primary story is about Orpheus and Eurydice, like I said. The secondary story is sort of a retelling of the myth of Hades and Persephone. Now, retellings of their myth gets muddy really fast because Greek mythology was like super weird and kind of gross and also just a mess in general. But I really like the portrayal of Hades and Persephone in this musical. It's like they're more so shown as equals, both struggling under the strain of a relationship that they want to salvage. They just need to be reminded that they want that. And I think that's a lot better than the retellings where it's like, oh, Hades, big, strong, tough guy who oversteps boundaries, please sweep me, Persephone, frail, innocent, naive maiden goddess, off of my feet. Yes, that's how the other myths sound to me, at least the majority of the time. But okay, so that's the gist of like what the story is about. There's other commentary on things like climate change and capitalism, but I'm not trying to overload your brain. So there's 6 characters we follow: Orpheus, Eurydice, Hades, Persephone, Hermes, and then the Fates. Orpheus and Eurydice are mortals. The rest are gods. Well, except the Fates. I mean, I guess the Fates are like three usually feminine spirits that have magic and shit, but I mean, I guess they're not like the gods exactly. I will say there's two versions that I've personally indulged. I'll talk a little bit about each of them and then I'll let you pick which version we listened to this morning. Yes, all of this because you bet against me. Okay, so there's the original cast recording, which was live, and I think that's pretty cool. And then there's the original Broadway cast recording. And both Hades and Persephone have the same actors, which personally I think is ironically perfect because in a way it's like the humans are changing, but the story remains the same, repeating endlessly. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry, are you telling me what can and can't count as my favorite album? Okay, we've been dating for how long, baby? Right. And you're expecting me not to talk your ear off after all this time? Thank you. I think both versions, personally, are incredible in their own way, which is rare for me, honestly. Um, Anyways, so the musical opens with the song Road to Hell. Oh, side note, I personally think the original casting of Hermes, like, the off Broadway version, is better. That's my personal take. But Andre de Shields does a very good job on Broadway. And honestly, like Orpheus, Eurydice, the Fates, they're all unique in their own way, and it's really hard to compare them. Okay, so like I said, first song is Road to Hell. It's not bad, it's a good way to start the musical. It's really lively, get a little pep in your step, you're vibing and shit. I think that the original version is a little bit better than the Broadway version, but again, that's probably based heavily because like Hermes sings it, and like I said, I prefer the other Hermes. And then, okay, so the Broadway version, there are added songs. And so it's kind of hard to like fully keep track of everything, but I'll try my best to like make sure you're not too confused. Okay, so after Road to Hell, oh, Anyway the Wind Blows. That is hands down one of my favorites. Like, it's like it's a very Eurydice heavy song. It's kind of like introducing us to her because she's the last person mentioned in Road to Hell, I think. And she's talking about like, the weather is always changing. It's never been the same. And life is really hard. Because I mean, like, it is. She's kind of like a her against the world kind of approach. And so that's all fine and dandy until we get the next song, Come Home With Me. And that's where we meet our boy Orpheus. Come Home With Me is sort of like, I like girl. Girl date? Question mark. Serenade. I don't know. It's silly. It's like a hi, go out with me, please. I sing really good kind of song. And honestly, the entire song is just amazing because it's I mean, again, Orpheus is such a good singer and Eurydice is also a good singer. And there's this like one line where she's like, who are you? Or like, what are you? And he's like, like, I'm a musician, I sing. And he's like, I also play the lyre, like the instrument, Lyre. But then Eurydice is like, oh, a liar and a player too. And just, God, the sass that comes off of her is just unmatched. And so you're like listening and you're like, okay, this isn't bad. Yeah, okay. And see, it's not bad. Okay, this isn't like a bad part, but it's definitely like a tonal shift. So like at a certain point in the song, Orpheus is just like, and all the flowers will bloom because he's talking about like fixing the weather. The weather's been like fucked up for a while. And he's like, yeah, I'll fix it and I'll sing this song and all the flowers will bloom when you become my wife. Completely skipping the like whole dating phase, but like it's a musical, so it makes sense. And immediately Eurydice's like, oh, he's crazy because like, why would I become his wife? And Hermes is like, listen, girl, you haven't really like met a guy like Orpheus before. And she's like, oh, I haven't. And so that leads into the wedding song. I think most of these songs are not in the original. Maybe? Honestly, I can't remember right now. So then there's the wedding song. That song, bop and a half. Oh my God. It's just like Eurydice being like, okay, I think I kind of like it, but I will make you beg for me. And Orpheus is just like, yeah, like I really like you. I really want to like be with you. I will make so many promises. Oh my god, I will make the birds come out and the flowers are gonna be awesome and the river is gonna provide us all the food we need and it's gonna be great. Like it's standard life stuff, if that makes sense. Oh my god. And then there's the first epic. I know the first epic wasn't in the like off-Broadway version, but epic number 1 in the like Broadway version is really, really, really good because there's 3 epics in the entire musical. And the first one is kind of like the first time we're hearing Orpheus sort of like try out this song that is like so magical, mind-blowing that it can like literally change the world. It's like I love it because it's repeated throughout the different acts, and it also kind of gives some insight into like Hades and Persephone and like how they got together, because like she loved him, at least like at first she did, but she didn't love being away from like the spring and the sun and stuff. Like, I mean, if you know the myth, like that's kind of generally what happens. Like she liked being down there kind of, depending on the version you're reading, but I mean she liked being above like the underworld. That's besides the point. Oh, and then there's like this little like, how does it go? It's like, it's a little thing that's like repeated throughout the musical. I think melody, maybe. I don't know music terms that well. Yes, I know I'm learning how to play the piano, but that does not mean I'm the most well versed in musical terms. Okay, leave me alone. Oh, okay. So then we have living it up on top. That is like well, okay, so Persephone, she's come up from the underworld for the spring. That's what she always says. Half the year she's down there, half the year she's up here. And she's vibing, she's like well, it's like he said, I'm an outdoor girl. Like she's very happy to like be away from Hades and like all the like doom and gloom down there. And like all the other people there, like Orpheus, Eurydice, there's like other mortals, I guess I'll say. They're all like, yeah, girl, we're having fun. We're jamming. Can we eat? Can we like have dance party things? It makes more sense if you listen to it. Just don't worry. And so there's like that song. And then that song kind of like bleeds into All I've Ever Known. And like that song is so fucking gorgeous. All right. Both Eurydices do a like very unique, amazing job for it. And just like, okay, so like how it goes is kind of like you get so used to like being cold and alone and in the darkness and like unhappy, but then like you meet this person and suddenly like it's like this is all you've ever known. All that you've ever known is like how to like be so guarded, yet they're showing you this like new way of life. I mean, not to be sappy, but it kind of reminds me of meeting you. I mean that because I don't know, life was really hard before I met you, and then you're just so sweet and kind and caring, even when you're trying to weasel out of listening to me ramble about my favorite album of choice. Let's see. Oh, okay, so that kind of like leads into Way Down Hadestown, which is interesting because it's the first time I think we like see Hades like in the show and like be more directly mentioned. I love the Broadway version. Okay, it's good. It's great. However, the original cast, they've got it. I'm sorry, they really do. It's kind of like, how do I word this? Okay, so it opens up with Hermes being like talking about the train to the underworld. I didn't mention that at first. I just realized. So Road to Hell starts. It's like on the road to hell there was like a railroad track because there's a train. There's a train, okay, and you can take it to get to the underworld. Is it metaphorical? Yes and no. But so there's a train. There's a train. And at the beginning of Way Down Hadestown, Hermes is like, on the road to hell there was like a railroad track. And Persephone is like, oh, come on. It hasn't been 6 months. Like, he shouldn't be coming back for me yet. But, I mean, obviously he is, because, like, that's what's happening in the song. So then he's coming up, and she's just like, it's not time for me to leave, but whatever, okay, like, I'll pack it up. She's like, I'm gonna bring a ton of wine. That matters for later. I wouldn't just bring that up for no reason. And they're kind of just talking about Hades, or at least the mortal perception of Hades. He's this like big, tough guy with lots of power and money and business and like all that's in like the underworld. And he like takes things, and he's like an eye for an eye kind of guy. And it's really interesting because like they're talking about this, and then meanwhile they're also talking about how like everybody's like starving and cold and tired and like destitute. Like all of them are suffering while he's like living lavishly. But what really like sticks out to me is this one line that Eurydice has, where it's like Orpheus was like talking about like he's a mean boss and he has all this power and stuff. But Eurydice says it kind of makes you wonder how it feels, kind of like alluding to her being like, damn, like I kind of wish I had that power. And that's going to come up in a little bit. Hades sort of like, quote unquote, has to take Persephone because he missed her. Which is like probably true, but not necessarily fair, because they agreed that for 6 months she would be down there, 6 months she gets to be up there. But either way, he comes, he takes her early. This is when we get the next song that isn't in the original cast recording, which is A Gathering Storm. It's sort of like a foreshadowing okay, it's a gathering storm. So like a storm is gathering, troubles a brewing, if you will. And so Orpheus is just like, hey, whoa, that he came for her too soon. It's not supposed to be like this. This isn't right. And Eurydice is just like, this is how it always is, because Orpheus is very much like an optimist. Hermes has always said that like he could see the way the world could be in spite of the way that it is. But Eurydice, as mentioned in All I've Ever Known, she's used to this. She's used to the cold and dark and life being so shitty. And so Orpheus kind of goes like, okay, I gotta like get back to this song, repeating the melody of the la 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 la. Yeah. And so this is when we get epic number 2. That is in both the recordings. I don't know. I'm probably biased. Okay. I'm prefacing this by saying I'm probably biased. But epic number 2 is a lot better than the original cast recording, mostly because just it makes the original Orpheus shine through a lot. But the Broadway recording, it has this like different line. Like there's different lyrics for the epics. And in the Broadway recording, Orpheus is talking about, again, Persephone and Hades. And he kind of has this line where he's talking about Hades being so scared that he's going to lose Persephone, being like, doubt that she'll ever come back, fear that she's like never going to want to return to him. And that's kind of significant for a little bit later. Oh, okay. And then epic number 2 has this like beautiful fucking transition, okay, into chant, which, okay, baby, I need you to look at me for a second. Both chant and chant number 2 / like chant reprise, okay, those are some of the best songs in the musical. They're my personal favorites, okay? So we're seeing like Persephone and Hades sort of like side of things, and also like the non-underworld side of things. I say non-underworld because like Hermes is also there, so it's not necessarily just like Orpheus and Eurydice. But so Persephone is like, in the coldest time of the year, why is it so hot down here? And in the darkest time of the year, why is it so bright down here? And Hades is just like, I love you so much that I've got this coal burning like crazy. I've got the power grid shining, and just everything is so bright and like this because I love you and I need you to know and see how much I love you. Which is like kind of silly, but like that's beside the point. That's what he does. And then for the like non-underworld side of things, they're like, it's cold and we don't have a lot of food and this is like really bad. And Eurydice is like, hey Orpheus, you know, we got married and stuff. We should like find food. But Orpheus is so like swept up in making the song that he's been like working on since he like first, even before he met Eurydice actually. And like he's like so stuck in it. Like Eurydice to Hermes like, is he always like this? Hermes is like, yeah, girl. Which is, it sounds weird. You just gotta trust me on this. But I definitely think that the Broadway version of the song is so much better because Eurydice just absolutely shines in the song. Honestly, both versions. There's this like line in both versions where Hermes is like, when the gods are having a fight, everybody else better hold on tight, which is like interesting because like there's so many ways you can interpret that. Because like the gods touch so many aspects of life and living. And there's like the sound effects that are being made by like the like chorus, the like ensemble cast. I can't recreate it very well, but like they're making noise, okay, and that is very cool and adds to the overall vibe. It's like not machinery. It's like I don't know how to word it. You gotta trust me on this. In the original version, the offcast version, off Broadway. That's what I meant. Eurydice, there's this line where she's like, everything I've saved is gone. Like nothing left upon the shelf. Fire ain't gonna light itself. Like she is very frustrated because she's like, Orpheus, you promised me all these things when we got married, and yet here I am, just like barely surviving, and I'm still trying to take care of the both of us, and you're so busy. And it's funny because like that's a Eurydice line, but in the Broadway version, I feel like the line that sticks out the most is Orpheus sort of like, I don't want to say spiral. Spiral doesn't seem like the right word. It's more like he's having to like cope with or like come to terms with like these things that he's realizing, which is the nature of Hades and Persephone's relationship as they've continued to like be together and sort of go on. And because he's sung the epics, two of them now, and those are more reflective of like how they met and how they got together. What sticks out to him is like he's like, the gods have forgotten the song that they love. And so like, oh my god, the melody is so good. Like, baby, if you don't remember the melody after we listen to it, I'm not gonna break up with you. That would be ridiculous, but I will feel very sad. Okay. I will feel very sad because it's like it's just so good, and it just like, I know it like gets into like your core and just it does something to you. And so that's the chant. Very long-winded explanation. The chant is basically like Persephone is back in Hadestown and kind of unhappy, and Hades is like, I love you so much. Why don't you appreciate all these things that I've done for you? And then Orpheus is like, I've got to fix these things because the gods are like, they're not in love with each other, and it's affecting the rest of us because like they control weather and shit. And Eurydice is just like, can you pay attention to me for like one moment? Just a moment. That's all I'm asking for. But obviously it doesn't work. And then we get Hey Little Songbird. I think the original cast recording it's just a smidge better, okay? Just for pacing purposes. That's my personal opinion. But I think Hey Little Songbird is so interesting because it's sort of the point where like capitalism is like pushing Eurydice away from Orpheus even more. And it's at this point where like she's kind of not on her last leg because like she's not dying, but she's at her wit's end. That's the expression. And then we get Mr. Hades, Mr. King of the Underworld himself. He has come up from Hadestown, and he's like, hey Little Songbird, the title. It's the title. Okay, it makes sense if you listen to it. And he's like, I'm a busy guy, and I'm just looking for someone who will appreciate the things that I can offer. Because again, Persephone, she's not too thrilled about being back like in the underworld with him. She's very upset. She's drinking for the most part. And she's just like, I don't care that you built all this for me. Like, I'm not happy. And so he's like, hey, Eurydice. Well, okay, he doesn't say Eurydice, but he's like, hey, Songbird, I need a little canary. Would you appreciate all these things that I give you? And Eurydice is just kind of like, I don't know about this, but also I am very hungry and sad. And so she's like, okay, what do I do? And this leads into when the chips are down. Broadway version, so fucking good, baby. Oh my god, you just gotta trust me on this again. You're gonna have to trust me on most of this until you actually listen to it. There's a rattlesnake. Is it a rattlesnake? I don't know if it's actually a rattlesnake. There's a rattle sound that is supposed to allude to the fact that in the original myth, that's how Eurydice is like quote unquote killed, like it's by a snake. There's a snake sound at the beginning, and oh wait, no, they do say rattlesnake. Okay, well, fuck, ignore everything I just said. So Hermes like opens it up, and the Fates are also there, like singing along, and so he's like songbird versus rattlesnake, and Eurydice's like, like, what is it? I'm assuming like the snake, and Hades is like, this is your ticket to the underworld, and Hermes and the Fates are kind of like, okay, like we're gonna narrate what's happening, but we're gonna give it some flair and some music and some style. And so the Fates are kind of like, okay, listen, girl, you're not doing too hot. All right, you're hungry, you're tired, you're cold, and your man isn't even paying attention to you very much. You've got to start looking out for yourself. And again, as I mentioned, all I've ever known, that's what Eurydice is like used to. And the Fates kind of, I don't know if it's implied that like the Fates interact with the mortals, but like the Fates have followed her entire life. And so they're just like, we know this. All right, we've seen it. You're not happy. And this guy right here, he's maybe offering you something that you could have and want and desire. Sorry, I'm wording this very weird. But they're basically like, hey, you got to look out for yourself. Don't think about Orpheus right now. What do you want? And so then the next song, Gone, I'm Gone, is Eurydice basically being like, Orpheus, I promise I love you. And I would love to say, but I am being faced with this impossible choice. And right now, my body is leading with where I want to go. And even the Fates, they're like, oh, like you really can't judge her because like you can have your principles when you're like your stomach's full, because like it's different when you're like starving or struggling. You can't really judge someone for what they do to survive, I mean, I hope you don't know. I would hope I could provide you with as much as you would like. Oh my god. Okay. And then after this, another absolute banger. Wait for me. I can't even begin to sing this song's praises. Okay, it's perfection, I would say. Both versions. I don't care what version you listen to. They both have like this amazing hypnotic almost quality to them. And so wait for me. It starts with Orpheus coming around because Eurydice, she's been kind of gone for a while and he was busy. And so he's like, Eurydice, like, where are you? And Hermes is like, oh, hey, big artist man. What are you doing? What are you looking for? And Orpheus is like, I'm looking for Eurydice. Do you know where she is? And he's like, oh, yeah, about that. And Orpheus is like, where is my wife? And Hermes is like, well, why do you want to know? Which, I mean, if you really think about it, like, that's weird because, think about it. All right, that's his wife. So, like, why wouldn't he be looking for her? But that's the point. Orpheus is like, wherever she is, like, I'm gonna go with her. Like, that's my girl. And Hermes is like, what if I told you she was down below? And Orpheus is like, down below? What do you mean? And Hermes is like, so Eurydice's dead. I don't know if that was clear. Eurydice has to, like, be dead, technically, to be in the underworld. Because, like, that's what Hades deals with. He deals with dead people. And Orpheus is like, what do you mean she's dead? And Hermes is like, yeah, she like just died too, like recently. You weren't listening. And Orpheus is like, damn, shit. And then Hermes is like, I mean, there's another way you could get to her if you like really love her. Like, do you love her? And he's like, yeah, like I'd love her till the end of time. And Hermes is like, all right, well, you don't have a ticket, but there's this back way you can go if you're like willing to like go to that link. And Orpheus is like, shit, I guess I will, because I want to get her back. And just the Broadway version of the song, like both versions are amazing, but the Broadway version has this like part, and it's just like, oh my god, it's just him like proclaiming, like he's like on his way, like just wait a little longer and he will be there to like save her. And it's beautiful. It's honestly beautiful, and also just breathtaking to see on stage. So then we get Why We Build the Wall, which is, I don't know how to feel about it, because it's sort of strange, because it's sort of Hades being like, I have all of you here working till your bones dry out. Weird expression. I'm so sorry. But I have all you people working, and I'm gonna remind you why. And like, they all sort of, I don't want to say sing in harmony because it's not that. They're all part of this like collective consciousness, I'll say hive mind kind of deal. And they're all like so convinced that like this is the way to live. This is the way of life. We constantly will continue to build up everything that Hades has because what else is there? And even Eurydice, she's like we have this purpose and we have this drive, and the other people, they don't have that. Like we are like not above, but like we are like, it's like she's saying like we're blessed. And the song ends in Hades. It's like, Eurydice, come into my office. There's some papers we need to sign. And Hermes is like, you know what happens when the foreman's gone? And then enter Persephone. But that's the end of Act 1. At least in the Broadway version. There's no like split up acts in the off-Broadway version. So then we get Our Lady of the Underground. Absolute banger. It's so good. And it's basically Persephone being like, you remember me? I'm here. I live here as well. And there's something very interesting about this song, because if you listen to the way that Persephone talks to the like workers that are in Hadestown, she always calls them brother or sister, which matters because whenever Hades talks to like any of the other people that are down there, he'll say like son. And I feel like when it comes to like son implies a lot more like authority over someone versus like brother and sister is more like solidarity. So then that song is just Persephone being like, oh, like, yeah, like, don't you guys hate it down here? You haven't seen the moon, the sun, the stars, like, in forever. And it's just like, oh, don't worry about what Hades is going to do. Like, who cares? I'm here. And it's just, Amber Gray is just so pretty and talented. It's very hard for me to focus right now. But then there's this one line she says, there's a crack in the wall, kind of implying that like something is going to go awry very soon. And another thing that I love about the song in both versions is that Amber Gray, she plays Persephone. She like lists off the band, and I don't know, I just think that's a fun little touch. So then we get Way Down Hadestown 2 or the reprise. It depends on which version you're listening to. And I love this song because it's Eurydice realizing like what she's actually done. Well, I mean, like, okay. So, like I said, she's dead. We know this now. I don't know if she maybe didn't know this or she didn't fully understand that that's what was happening. But the song is sort of like when you realize like there is no true freedom under capitalism. And then in the original version, Eurydice is like, you guys said this was the promised land. And the Fates are like, no, we said that if you sell your soul, you'll get what you were looking for. That is all we said. And even in the Broadway version, like that Eurydice, she's like, there must be a mistake. And the Fates are like, oh yeah, there was a mistake because you sold your soul and now you're dead. So you've got to live with that. And Eurydice, she's like, no, like, I have to go. And they're like, go where? And she's like, go back. And they're just like, oh, but like, look, you don't even remember where that is. You don't remember where you came from, who you were with before. Like, do you even remember your name? Because like, that's the nature of like being in Hadestown. Like you lose your sense of self. It's something that Eurydice had already noticed in the other workers, but like didn't realize was going to soon apply to herself, which is like mind-boggling, not in the way of like I'm judging Eurydice, but in a like it makes you think. It makes you think about like what they were trying to imply with that. And so, like I said, that's in both versions. The next few songs are completely new, I think. Yeah, I don't think Flowers was in it. Yeah, okay. Sorry. So next song is Flowers. It's kind of like the equivalent of All I've Ever Known, at least like in sense of purpose. It's Eurydice being like, all I wanted was like peace and not to be suffering anymore and to be able to enjoy my life. And now I've lost what I had before. I'm losing my sense of self. Like, this is like horrible and I miss whoever I had before. Like, again, because she already is like forgetting Orpheus, which is like devastating. And she's like, I remember when we would like lay in these fields of flowers and like nothing would be wrong. And I wish I could go back to that time. I don't know. It's just, it envelops you in this sense of like calm, but it's also like pained and sorrowful. What? No, that's not the end of the musical, baby. No. Okay, we've still got plenty of Act 2 to go through. So after that is Come Home With Me, reprise. Orpheus, our guy, he has made it to Hadestown, and Eurydice is like, oh my god, it's you. You're the guy that I was forgetting. And Orpheus is like, it's you, my love, my wife. And they're just like, whoa, like you're here. You shouldn't be here. How are you here? And Orpheus is like, I sang and the stones wept and they let me through and I'm here and I'm gonna take you home. And Eurydice is just like, no, you can't. And he's like, yeah, I can. I just sang this. I made stone cry. I promise you I can. But Eurydice is like, no, you don't understand. Immediately leads into papers. It's Hades basically being like, Orpheus. Well, he doesn't say Orpheus. He says young man. But he's just like, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you think you are. But you don't belong here. Because, okay, you're not one of my workers. And these are people who work here. You're not even dead. You're on, like, the wrong side of everything. And Persephone, recognizing Orpheus, because, again, she's, like, lived above ground. She's just like, no, wait, I know this kid. Like, don't worry. And what's it called? Hades is like, yeah, he's one of the unemployed. And Persephone's like, his name is Orpheus. Hades is like, you stay out of this. Kind of like sidelining her because he has like a singular objective, which is to get Orpheus out of here. And Orpheus is like, I'm not going back alone. I came to take her home. And then Hades has this laugh. Oh my God. And he's like, who the hell, first of all, do you think you're talking to? And he's just like, that aside, she couldn't go with you even if she wanted to, because like, okay, I'm paraphrasing heavily and it sounds way better when you actually listen to it. But he's just like, she went behind my office doors and she signed her life away. She's dead. You can't have her even if you wanted to. And this is like devastating to Orpheus. There's like an instrumental song after this. I mean, it's good, but it doesn't really matter. And then the Fates get a song. It's called Nothing Changes. And I mean, they just did amazing. It's a very simple song. It's just like everything just stays the same and nothing ever changes. And it's very sad. And there's no point in trying, sort of thing. It's a very hopeless or like helpless song, I guess. And then there's If It's True. I'm sorry, I'm trying to contain my excitement just a little bit. But I think that If It's True is the best song that they added to the Broadway version. That's my unpopular opinion. I don't know how unpopular it is, but I feel like that's a bit of a hot take. But it's kind of like Nothing Changes, but it's an Orpheus song. And it's Orpheus being like, if it's true that like I can't save her, then like what am I supposed to do? But it's more than that. It's, how do I word this? I feel like this song just like hits in such a specific way because it's Orpheus just being so like distraught. He's lost Eurydice, or he feels like he's lost her. But his words in his song are echoing throughout Hadestown. And so all the other workers are also hearing him. And they're like, wait, like, what's he saying? Like, maybe there's some like merit to it. And he's kind of like, this is like, it's bullshit. Like, why is it that the people in power get to dictate when all is said and done? Like, the ones who tell the lies, like, swear it's the truth, they're, like, playing games with us. And, like, that's not fair. And he's just like, if it's true, like, okay, I will leave. But, like, tell me what to do. Like, just, I want to know, like, is it true? Like, what they're saying. And it's such a good song. And then we have How Long, which is, like, the Hades and Persephone song, okay? Persephone, you remember how I mentioned that, like, she took a lot of wine, she drinks a lot? That matters because in this song, she's like, she goes to Hades after all of this has transpired, And she's just like, Orpheus, he's just a guy in love. Like, why are you being like this? And Hades is like, just have a drink, why don't you? And she's like, no, I've had enough, because she wants to be like clear-headed when she's talking about this. And she's like, like, Hades, you're my husband and I love you. Like, but like, what are you doing? How long are we gonna keep going through this like cycle of bullshit with like nothing ever like changing? And she's like, I am still your wife, and that should matter. That should hold merit. And like, oh, it's such an amazing song. And it's sort of implied that like how long and if it's true are kind of happening almost simultaneously, because it leads into the chant reprise, or chant number 2, which is also just such an amazing song. In the original cast recording, the chorus, the ensemble of like workers, let's say, were like, he said he'd shelter us. He said he'd like harbor me, which is the same thing that like Eurydice also sort of felt like. She was like, I was supposed to be different and special, but like I wasn't. And I think that's really good. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's very good. The Broadway version hits in a different way, though. It's like, why do we turn away when our brother is bleeding? Like, why do we build a wall and then call it freedom? Like, if we're free, like, if we're so free, like, why can't I even look at the other people there? And that's all said by the chorus. And then there's a part that is, like, sort of emphasized by Orpheus and Eurydice under there. And they're like, if I raise my voice, because, like, that's what he can do. And Eurydice is like, if I raise my head, because like that's what she can do. And they're both like, could I change my fate? And then they're both like, if I raise my voice, could I change the way it is? Because again, a lot of this at this point is like, they're like, damn, like this shit is terrible. It shouldn't be like this. We should do something about it. Like, what? Now Hades is like trying to get control of them, because he's just like, all right. You're about to start a riot, and that's not going to work for me. What are we going to do about that? And he's like, listen, son, can I call you son? This no, listen, this is like how he's talking to Orpheus. He's like, son, I had a lady myself, and they're so fickle. They're so like, they're hot and cold and stuff. Now, you know what's consistent? Machinery. All right. Machinery never fails, never lets you down. And he's like, and that's why I have Hadestown, which is where we are. And so he's like, don't forget, like, I conduct the Electric City. It's like it's a whole big thing. And he's like, all right, you know what? Since you riled up all my workers, and since Persephone, my wife, she likes you a lot, I will give you one chance to sing me a song. And then I'll probably kill you. I know, I'm sorry. But that's how it's said. He's just like, I'll let you sing for me since you're apparently this grand musician, and then I'm probably gonna kill you. So you get one chance to like make me weep, make me feel young, make me remember my life. And this is when we get epic number 3. Epic number 3 is amazing. And I personally think that the original cast version is just a little bit better. But the whole point of epic number 3 is, one, it's the finished song that we've like been hearing bits and pieces of throughout the entire show. And it's a reminder of what Hades and Persephone like originally shared. It's Orpheus being like, when you first met, like you were just a humble man and you saw her and you thought she was everything that like life could be worth living for. And all you wanted to do was love her and share that warmth with her. Like, what happened to that? And that's like kind of like a very condensed version of it. I think it's a lot better to listen to. But then we lead into Promises, which is shared in it's in both versions. It's kind of Eurydice being like, hey, Orpheus, you promised me a lot of things when we got married. Definitely fell through. That's kind of why we're in the situation that we are. So like, what are we gonna do about that? How can we repair what we had if all this stuff has happened now? And Orpheus is like, I'm sorry. I know I really let you down. I can at least promise to love you, and I hope that that'll be enough. It's kind of weird because Promises is in both the original cast version and the like Broadway version, but they're like in different orders. Either way, so it's there. After that, we have Word to the Wise and His Kiss the Riot. I'm going to put those two together. They're different songs, but they kind of go together in a sense. It's the Fates talking to Hades. And they're basically like, okay, here's the deal. Orpheus here just sang the most amazing song that not only did it bring you to tears, it's fixed your marriage. There's nothing else left for you to like do. Like it's had an impact. Your workers have also witnessed all of this. So one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to let him go, but you're going to seem like a coward. Okay, you're the king of the underworld, and you just let this guy go because he sang a song? Like, loser. Yeah. Or you don't let him go, but now you seem like an asshole. Like, how dare you listen to this guy? Like, he poured his heart out for the love of his life. You're gonna tell him no? It's like a damned if you don't, damned if you do. And so Hades, after the Fates kind of mention, like, if you like give humans an inch, you're gonna take a mile. So like, they will be their own downfall. Hades is like, I will let them think that they've won. And this is when, like, I don't want to say like the real meat and potatoes, because like the entire musical is good, but the real meat and potatoes of the musical is like right around now. And so then we have Wait for Me #2, or the reprise. And this is when Hermes shows up and he's like, all right, let me tell you what's going on. Hades said that you can leave, and everyone's just like, he said we could leave. Like, really? And Hermes is like, wait, though, there's stipulations. And they're like, okay, what is it? And Hermes is like, Hades says that if you two are to leave together, Orpheus has to be the one that's in the front, and Eurydice has to walk behind him. And if Orpheus, for even 1 second, looks back to make sure that Eurydice is actually there, she goes back to Hadestown, and that's it. And they're like, why? Like, that's so weird. And Hermes, like, reminds them that, like, Hades is still a man of power who wants power. It's a test, and you need to follow it if, like, this is your only chance. And he's like, I mean, don't you trust each other? And Orpheus and Eurydice are like, yeah, of course we trust each other. Then Hermes is like, all right, focus, like, go through it. And Hermes is kind of like, he alludes to the fact that, like, the scariest, most influential thing that we have isn't like power or animals or something. It's our heads. And like that can like lead to our downfall. And there's like a brief section where like Hades and Persephone are talking. And Persephone's like, do you think that they'll make it? And Hades is like, I don't know. And she's like, you let them go. And he's like, I let them try. And she's kind of like, well, what about us? We've just heard this song. I feel like we're starting to rekindle our relationship. Can we try again next year, since spring is almost here, so I'm going to be leaving, but like next year, can we try? And Hades is like, I will wait for you. Yes. And so like, that's like honestly pretty sweet. I think it's pretty sweet. Orpheus and Eurydice, they're like both going, and there's this like, just Eurydice. Listen, Eurydice in the Broadway version, her pipes are just out of this world. And just like with the first Wait for Me, Eurydice is just like, you know, like, I'm coming, like, just wait for me. Just hold on, Orpheus. But then we get the next song, which is Doubt Comes In. And again, we have the melody, the like, we're getting that again. But it's like, it's eerie this time. And I think this is the most tragic song in the entire show. And so basically, they're walking out of Hadestown. Like I said, Eurydice is behind Orpheus. He's not allowed to look back to make sure that she's there. And he's kind of like, I don't feel like she's there. I feel like this is a trick. This, like, why would Hades actually let me be able to have like the love of my life back? Like, there's no way she's actually there. And Eurydice is like, hey, no, like, I can see you're tense, you're shaking, like, it's okay. Like, I'm right here. There's no need to worry. But then again, Orpheus is just like, it has to be a trap. It has to be a trick. Like, there's no way this is true. And Eurydice, she's still trying to like convince him like it's fine and it's good and just keep walking. But then he turns around and she gasps, and it sort of like leaves you with this like pit in your stomach, because he's like, it's you. And she's like, it's me. And they say each other's names, but there's no stopping it. Like, he turned around and they were so close to getting out. But a deal's a deal, so she goes back to Hadestown and she's gone. And this is when we get the reprise of Road to Hell, the song from the beginning. And I think that the original cast version is just a little bit better because it's so painfully restrained almost, and it's Hermes kind of being like, we are going to sing this song again, and we're going to start the show over at some point, and this is how it's always going to go, and there's no escaping it, and this is just how life can go. And it's really melancholy, and I don't know, it sort of like leaves you with a weird feeling. There is technically one more song in the Broadway version at least, but I personally don't tend to listen to it, which sounds unfair if it's supposed to be my favorite album, but I don't know. It never closes the musical in the same way that I feel like I need it to. But yeah, so that's basically all of it. Ideally, we would listen to the original cast recording first so you could fully appreciate the Broadway recording, but that'd be over 3 hours, and I know that that's kind of a stretch. You look sleepy. Baby, it's still pretty early in the day. It's alright if you want to go back to sleep. I did get a little carried away with the explanation. Baby, it can wait until later today. Come on, let's just relax in bed this morning. I promise. It's okay.